thank you to Rabbi Langer for joining us here. Rabbi Langer is a worldwide, not only CRC expert in Bedikas Toyloim, and he's going to show demonstrations of how to check for bugs, and which is one of the most important things. We spoke about doing the hands-on. It's a long presentation, but we'll do hands-on. For those, it will go a little bit closer to one. For those that have to leave carpet or anything else, leave. And we appreciate it. But also in the end, we can take questions. Myself or both of I on all three topics.
The hallmark of being a Torah observant Jew is Shabbos, Taharas HaMishpacha, and Kashrus. When it comes to Kashrus, there's no Torah observant Jew who would go ahead and buy a product without checking to make sure it has a proper kosher symbol on it, under a proper hashkafa. What people don't realize is that sometimes a salad, a lettuce salad served to you, could be more problematic than that item that doesn't have a hashkafa on it. When it comes to lettuce salads, very often they come infested with bugs, with insects on it. The Torah warns us between 4 to 6 times not to eat bugs, depending on the type of bug. If it's a water bug, a bug that goes on land, a flying bug, there could be anywhere between 4 to 6 averos, 4 to 6 lavin in the Torah for eating an insect. The Pri Chadash wonders, he asks, why is it that the Torah has to warn us so many times about eating insects? When it comes to other Isurim, the Torah says you can't eat a non-kosher piece of meat. It says it once, that's it. How come here the Torah has to repeat itself 4 to 6 times? The Pri Chadash tells us that the Torah is aware of how difficult it is to check produce. The produce, the lettuces, they come infested. It's very tedious. It's difficult to get rid of every last insect. And the Torah has to warn you over and over again, make sure we get rid of the bugs. The Torah says, when it comes to eating insects, non-kosher food and insects, the Torah says, I'll take even a tmesim elvini tamtem. When a person eats non-kosher food, a person eats insects, they're not careful, it brings tumtum halei, it closes up our heart from feeling close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Sefer Reishis Chachma tells us when it comes to eating insects in particular, it brings Rahman al-Islam terrible illnesses upon people. And so it would be our due diligence before we're eating our produce, eating salads. We're not telling you not to eat salads. We're not telling you not to eat vegetables. Certainly they're very healthy. But we have to be careful to make sure that we check for bugs. And what do we have to check? I go to a store and I buy an apple, I buy a peach. Do I have to start looking and examining it to check it for bugs? So no. When you go to a fruit store and you buy a fruit in a fruit store, so very rarely are there bugs on those fruit. It's what we call a miyat she'enei masli. Something which is very uncommon to have bugs. Halacha doesn't require me to check it. And if there was a bug, I did absolutely nothing wrong. As an aside, if you go fruit picking, if you go peach picking, there are bugs on those fruit out in the fields. Talking about when you're buying it in the stores. Then there's something which always has bugs. It's very infested. A lot of the organic produce that we buy today, organic kale, for example, is something which is highly infested with little aphids and other kinds of insects. Most servings of those produce have bugs. That's what we call muchzik b'toyloim. There's an obligation in HaTorah to go ahead and check that produce before eating. Then we have things which somewhat, they're not always infested, but they're very common. They're very common to have bugs. That's most of our produce that we eat today. It's called the miyat hamatzli. There's the obligation of midrabanan to check those fruits and vegetables before eating them. And there are differences, practical differences between these categories. For example, if I'd like to blend, let's say I buy berries and I want to blend them, put them into a food processor. So you have to understand bugs, when they're whole, are a problem. Bugs when they're whole aren't bottle. For example, if I have a pot of cholov, big pot of cholent, and a small amount of milk falls into a big pot of cholent, a small amount of milk becomes bottle in cholent. It's so small, it's so negligible, it doesn't count. It's insignificant. But a bug, as long as it's whole, a whole insect, is what we call a barrier. It's a whole living object, even if it's not alive anymore. It's something which doesn't become bottle, doesn't become nullified, and it can't be eaten. However, if it's crushed up, if it's blended, then one would be allowed to go ahead and eat it. Now it became bottle. So when are you allowed to put things into a food processor, into a blender where it's going to get blended? So many poskim hold that it depends. If it's a category of food which is very infested, it's muchzik b'Toyloim, there's no hope for it. If it's only a meat hamatzli, like most of our produce, so then you can put it into a blender, you wash it off, you rinse it off to get rid of any easy to remove bugs, and you can put it into the blender in a way where any potential insect would for sure be blended up. Now, we're going to show you a method in checking for produce today. In the olden days, the way we checked for a lettuce, we took the lettuce, we held it up to the light, and looked for bugs. And one can still do that today if they so desire. But when you're dealing with a lot of lettuce, it's something which is a very difficult task to do. Your eyes start playing games with you. You're looking very carefully over the leaves, over every spot of the leaf. It's something which is hard, it's difficult. So we came up with a method today for checking lettuce. It's called the strip cloth method. All hashgachas around the world really are using this method for checking. We can check large amounts at a quicker pace, and it also helps us. Some of the bugs become camouflaged. You have some of the greener bugs become camouflaged in the leaf. It makes it very difficult to see on the leaf. So we have a method that we use now to avoid these problems. So I'm going to start with the strip cloth method, and we'll move on to maybe some other vegetables and different policies that we have to checking them.
What do you call that? Sorry, strip or?
It's called a thrip. A thrip is the name of the insect which is most common in lettuce. It's called a thrip.
Okay.
Therefore, we call the cloth a thrip cloth. That's
What?
so. The way we use it is we have here's lettuce. At different times of the year, there are different levels of infestation. In the springtime, early summer, usually the lettuce comes a lot worse at that time of the year. Okay, so we have to separate all the leaves. And then we would take a little bit soap or veggie wash.
No, it's okay.
The soap that we like to use is called 7th generation soap. The only reason we like it is because it's not toxic, doesn't have any fragrance, any scent, so it doesn't taste soapy, and it's not toxic, it's not poisonous. We then pour the water with the soap on top of the lettuce. When we're doing it at home, you're going to fill up the cup, the bowl, till where the water level is going to be over the leaves. And we want to leave room to agitate. The agitating is very important, and what cleans the lettuce. I like to compare the lettuce to a dirty laundry. Your lettuce is your dirty laundry. How do you clean dirty laundry? You put detergent and you agitate. That's how one cleans dirty laundry. So here also, my soap or my veggie wash is going to be my detergent, and you're going to agitate. You leave it in for a minute or 2 minutes, agitating it here and there. Now, if I was to do this at home, I would simply empty this water out and start again, because I know most of the time there are bugs in this water. But now we want to look at what the bugs look like. So here's what we do. We take the lettuce. We always pull the lettuce out of the bowl and let the water and gravity pull out any potential bug. Then we have, here's 2 strainers and this cloth. The cloth, I have it here if anybody would like to purchase. You can get them at the CRC, either pick them up or they'll mail it to you. They're very durable, they last for a very long time. You take the cloth and you sandwich it in between the 2 strainers. The concept is as follows. I'm going to take this water and I'm going to pour it through the strainers. I'm going to then take the cloth and look at it in the light. If there are no bugs on the cloth, then we say for halachic purposes, I could assume there are no bugs left in the lettuce. Now, do I know for sure? I don't know for sure, but it's uncommon. It's an einay matzoi for there to be bugs left in the lettuce, so we allow me to go ahead and to eat the lettuce, yes?
I don't understand the concept of pouring the water back over the lettuce. Because once the first step, once the detergent is agitated, aren't there toluim still left in the water?
Right, so that's, again, so what I normally do is at home, I would wash it a few times, a couple of times, and then spill the water out. I wouldn't save this water, I'd pour this water down the drain. Once I feel confident that this lettuce is probably clean, I really washed it well. And sometimes you can wash each leaf by leaf. That's also a very helpful way of washing it. But now we want to just make sure there are no bugs left. So we put it back into soapy water, and then we're going to pour the water through the cloth. So if there are no bugs in that water, we say there's probably no bugs in the lettuce. If I find even 1 bug in this water, we say rewash it again until you come up with no bugs on the cloth. So we'll pour the water through.
Just pour the water, so pour it.
We do a little rinse of the bowl because there's some suds over here. Want to make sure any potential bug will be found. And when I want to check the cloth, it's difficult because there are suds that are on the strainer. So if I had my sink, my faucet, what I would do is I would just pour, usually warm water works better. To get rid of the suds. What? This applies to all lettuce, iceberg lettuce included. Iceberg lettuce has been found to be very infested, at times not as bad as romaine, but iceberg lettuce has plenty of bugs. It's helpful also to use a spray can, helps get rid of the suds and any dirt that you want to move it around. Let's see.
You want to come up, you want to stand in front of me.
I'm going to show a couple of bugs. It's called where are my other toothpicks? There. There's one that's very small on the bottom. If you have good eyes, you can see it, and usually they start to crawl after a while.
See this one you're pointing to? These 2?
Yeah.
These 2.
What if you don't have this light? How can you check this?
Buy it.
Okay, and that's how you buy it.
You can get it in Jewel.
And lights.
Exactly, but till you
What's it
do
called?
it, how can you check this?
It's
called the chicken.
Okay.
Real, they have a nation.
It's called the Star K Kosher Certification.
They sell it at Jewel
Yeah.
in the kosher aisle.
They also
Yeah, but that's
have
awfully
these.
tiny for somebody to see it.
On the light, can see it.
There's other
Something to you about triple wash. Not all triple wash things are created equal. Sometimes something says triple washed on it, and it means that there are 3 shower heads that are going over the lettuce that are spraying the lettuce, and they call that triple wash because there are 3 shower heads that were covering the lettuce. Sometimes it's a more intensive wash. But the idea is that the bottom line is that things which are triple washed, the CRC would not allow somebody to use without checking, because very often we find bags of lettuce that even have a hashgacha which is not reliable that are printed on them, and they're filled with bugs. We had this all summer long. We had it with iceberg lettuce, triple washed iceberg lettuce, all different kinds of triple washed products. Just last week, 2 weeks ago here in Chicago, a couple of establishments getting triple washed baby spinach, and they couldn't get it clean. It came triple washed, and they had to wash it without exaggerating 10 times until it got clean. Things can come very infested, and we don't know until we check it. Sometimes if you have to wash it so many times, especially spinach, things like that, it's not worth it. First of all, it's not worth the time, and number 2, it will destroy the leaf by the time you are done with it. There are certain things that we don't allow even to use the cloth method. Let's say, for example, broccoli. Broccoli, we're concerned that the bugs get stuck in the florets, where they're not going to all get out, they're not going to be able to be dislodged, and so we only allow broccoli with a reliable hashgacha, where they're grown in a greenhouse, where there's somebody who is overseeing it to make sure that no bugs got in.
What about kale?
So kale could be checked in the same way. All leafy things, anything which is leafy, romaine lettuce, iceberg lettuce, herbs like we have with dill, we have cilantro, all these things are washed with the strip cloth method. Sometimes you get lucky, you don't find any bugs, maybe 1 or 2, and that's easy. You can find 1 or 2 bugs, like this lettuce here, we found 2 bugs. We'll probably wash it 1 or 2 more times and it's going to be clean. Sometimes when you're getting out 15, 20, 25 bugs, yeah, and all different kinds of bugs. You have spiders, there's aphids, there's thrips, all different types. So it could be something which is just, it's not worth anybody's time. We tell you, get rid of it, yes.
I don't know, the little one.
Yeah.
Because you had said before that checking, with a light is still sufficient, and this method is only for a larger quantity, but that you can't tell that that's.
Well, if you were good, and now I showed you what it looks like, if you would be able to, think you'd be able to identify it, so that would be okay. It is important to know what the bugs.
Does it stick out?
It's a little yellowish. Once you get the hang of it, you see it a few times, it becomes natural to you. For me, people wonder. I look at a cloth and I spot them right away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And people, how do you know that? Because you get used to it. Your eyes get trained to seeing what they look like. You know what they look like, and it becomes natural to you. I once gave a lecture somewhere. I was talking about how raspberries and fresh raspberries and blackberries are very infested. Very infested. We don't recommend using it, but you keep washing and washing it, and by the time you're done, it's raspberry jam. There's nothing left of it. And somebody told me, his Rebbe, who was a hush of a person, told him, all he has to do is check it. You check it, you look at it, you don't see a bug, you can eat it. I said, did you ever see a bug on a blackberry? You're telling me you always eat? No, I've never seen a bug on a blackberry before. I said, you don't even know what you're looking for. You're checking for something, you don't even know what you're looking for. He came to my house that night with a small container of blackberries. We both together found no less than 13, 14 insects. Nothing, we didn't need any magnifying glasses. We don't use any magnifying glasses. We just use our eyes, and he was able to spot all 13 bugs. He never ate a blackberry again.
You have frozen strawberries, and they say, what's in the ingredients? Frozen strawberries.
Okay, so let's talk about strawberries.
Anything, and they say, it's fine.
Okay, so you want to know about frozen strawberries. Let's discuss the frozen fruit. Frozen strawberries, we do have a method for cleaning strawberries. Because strawberries don't have the same kinds of crevices like raspberries and blackberries, where the bugs can really just sneak into the berry. So we have a way of cleaning it. It's a difficult method, but that's what's needed to get rid of the bugs. We take each strawberry, and we have to make. Yeah. The idea is that the strawberries, especially in the springtime, summertime, the bugs, it was those little yellow strips that we just saw on the cloth. A strawberry is filled with them. A container of strawberry can contain 40, 50 of those bugs in the spring and summertime. The thrip is an insect. It lays between 25, 30 eggs on one strawberry. So you can imagine how many thrips can get into that strawberry. Now these things you could see, if you have on the strawberry itself, very often, they're hiding by the seeds. They're tucked away in between the seed and the berry. And what I would do is, to show it to people, I take a toothpick, and I would just give a little tap on the seed, and the bug will all of a sudden shoot out, because it's alive. They're alive. They're hiding. They're there. So we have to come up with a method which is a very slippery. Now I probably can't. But this is the time of the year. There are bugs. I could wash it and show it to you, the same bugs as in summer, right? That's when they're more prevalent. But there are bugs in here. It's very rare that I can go through a container of Driscoll. Driscoll, I find, has more bugs because I think that the strawberries are a better quality strawberries, and the bugs know that as well. So very rare have I went through a container of Driscolls and not find several bugs in it, even this time of the year. So we have to have a method that's going to really get those bugs out. So it has to be a very slippery solution. We have a ratio of 1 tablespoon of soap. We wouldn't want to use veggie wash on it. Veggie wash is really diluted soap. It's not as concentrated. We want to use 1 tablespoon of 7th generation soap to 8 cups of water. It shouldn't be more diluted than that. And we would, and it's after cutting off the tops. Most of the bugs are on the top, so we cut off the top part. We put it into the container. We put it into a bowl with 8 cups of water to 1 tablespoon of soap. And we agitate the water. Leave it there for 1 minute to 2 minutes. And agitating is a part of the time. Real good agitation. Then we take each strawberry and under running water, take 2 fingers and just rub it under the running water. It helps to remove some of the bugs. And then we put it into another 8 cups of water with a tablespoon of soap. And again, agitate it. And at that point, we feel whatever's left is a miyut she'enoi matzli. It's not common for there to be bugs left. So it would be soap, rub, soap, twice. Soap. Also, I check it personally at home. When I do it, I can check it because these yellow bugs come up very easily to me. But for the regular people, but for regular people, it's hard to differentiate between the hairs of the strawberry and the bugs. So we can't expect the average consumer to be able to do that. So we have to come up with a method that's going to just eliminate.
You do the second time 1 cup of soap with water again.
1 tablespoon of soap with 8 cups of water. 1 tablespoon of soap to 8 cups of water.
What about peeling just peeling the strawberry?
You can certainly do that. That will certainly get rid of it. Bugs don't usually get to the inside of it. You could have occasionally that's any mutzling.
Do you have any advice on how to not destroy all the strawberries? Because I use this method at home, but if any of them are bruised or you have to cut it any deeper and you open it up, you only end up with a few strawberries at the end.
Did you use this soap?
No, not that.
Okay, the question was how the strawberries are finding, we're doing this method and the strawberries get destroyed. So here it's very crucial really when it comes to strawberries, more so than other produce, to use 7th generation. Because when you use palm olive or dawn on your strawberries, you're zapping out all the taste from the strawberry. There's nothing left to it. It's tasteless. Using this soap, we found it to be very effective. And the strawberry bread should be, the better the quality of the strawberry, also it's going to be better off because if you have soft, mushier strawberries, it's not going to withstand the ruling of this cleaning. So again, using Driscoll's is a better brand when they're fresh and firm. So we don't have a problem with that. Usually they come out fine. Yeah.
What about local cabbage?
We'll talk about blueberries in a minute. Yeah, we'll get there in a minute.
Local cabbage.
Let's go 1 thing at a time. So blueberries, so there are 2 types of bugs in blueberries. There could be maggots in blueberries. Now, if you go to a farm that sells blueberries, they're on very high alert for maggots. Maggots, little white worms, will destroy your crop. I know a friend of mine, he's a big bug expert. So he went to a farm. He wanted to check out maggots. And he's looking through the bushes and told him, "You're not going to find any maggots in our farm. It's going to destroy our crop." He spent hours and hours until he found one bush that had maggots, and he called this maggots. He said it was like he called 911. They came, the whole place came down, to that bush to destroy that bush. That would destroy their farm. They're on high alert for maggots. So anytime you're getting blueberries that are coming from a place where it's being sold commercially, the likelihood is that there are no maggots, and we don't require you to check it. Now, if you do see some maggots, and you see these little white worms, and you'll see 3 of them, so then we would tell you that you can't eat those blueberries unless you open up each one. If you find one, we'll say it's just one random worm, that would be okay. If you want to just test it, so you're taking blueberries and you put them into very salty water, so the maggots will float, some of the maggots will ooze out of the blueberry and float to the top. So that's the only concern that we really have with blueberries. There are those, you might be hearing in places in the world, people they don't eat blueberries. There are companies that make, Bodek has blueberries. So why are they serving Bodek blueberries? So there is a bug called a scale insect. It's just for educational purposes. There's a scale insect is a very, very small bug that crawls onto blueberries. They have the same thing on citrus fruits, onto the peel of the citrus fruits. It's called a scale insect. It's very, very small. It's smaller than what we're looking at over here. It curls onto the blueberry and it latches onto it, and it's Nefleis Habayri. It doesn't need to crawl anymore, so it sheds its legs. It doesn't have any appendages anymore. And how do you identify it? You'll see a little whitish circle. It's called a scale. That's why it's called a scale insect, which is little wax that it protects itself with. It's alive, can't move anymore. And it drinks blueberry juice for the rest of its life. But it's alive, and it's a bug. So this bug is very controversial in halacha if we should view it as a bug. Some will tell you, it doesn't have any legs, it doesn't have any wings. You have to be a scientist to know that it's a bug. That's not a bug which is going to be problematic, and that's going to be okay to eat. That's the view of the CRC and other hashkachas. This was a view of Rabbi Yisroel Langer. In Eretz Yisrael, they're more machmir for this. They follow the view of the Chazon Ish. The Chazon Ish held that this bug is considered to be an insect, and it is a problem. If one chooses to be machmir for this chumrah, so what they would do is, you would take the carton of blueberries and you'd have to look at least a handful of them. If they get infested, they usually get onto a lot of them. And you have to check each blueberry, and you have to take a toothpick and look under the crown. Sometimes they go there, and look for these little whitish circles. Not to be confused with mold. Mold is really in the part of the blueberry. This is something that would come off. It doesn't come off with washing. You'd have to take a little toothpick and poke it off. That's the CRC. Nobody's, just you wash. There are regular bugs in blueberries that come off with a simple washing. I wouldn't go blueberry picking and eat them right off the bush. I would make sure to wash them before eating them.
Salt and water or water? Salt and water?
It's water, plain water. Frozen, so the frozen blueberries will be the same thing. It'll be okay. Bodek officially makes sure that there are no scales, these scale insects on their blueberries, if one wanted to be strict for that. Otherwise, if you're not makbid for that, regular frozen blueberries are okay. Strawberries, frozen strawberries, go through a very rigorous wash. Where the belief is that their wash is so good that it makes whatever bugs are there into animals. We have gone through many bags of strawberries and we really haven't found any bugs on frozen strawberries. Other hashkachas have said that they have found some bugs. They're concerned maybe if you call them hamatzoi. CRC policy is that frozen strawberries, it went through such a strong, rigorous method of washing, we're okay with you eating it even whole. When it comes to frozen blackberries and raspberries, so we have found many bugs in frozen blackberries and raspberries. It's questionable if we should call it hamatzoi or call it muchzik, but there are opinions that allow you to blend even muchzik, and because of other reasons, have allowed the consumers to blend, not eat them whole, but frozen raspberries and blackberries, we will allow you to puree it and to blend it thoroughly, assuming that all the bugs would get crushed up in that process.
Is that only in like a Vitamix high-powered mixer or in any
we assume that any mixer where it's blended well, it just has to get chopped. It only has to get nicked. One limb of that bug has to get nicked. So the assumption is that if you blend it well thoroughly, that will take place. That's what we assume. I mean, I did try it once. I'll tell you, I took these bugs of strawberries, these thrips, and I put it into a blender with water. And I put the blender on high for 15, 20 seconds, and I poured it onto the cloth, and bugs came out walking. They came out walking. I said, my goodness, I put it into a blender, and they came out alive. Obviously, they went through a whirlpool, spinning around. But then I tried again putting ice cubes, where there was torque in the blender, and nothing came out alive. Everything was crushed up in a regular household blender. So that's the assumption, as long as there's something hard in that blender, that the bugs will get chopped or nicked in some way.
Why doesn't that work with fresh raspberry?
It's fresh blackberries and raspberries. We would assume those can be considered to be mostly. The frozen ones did go through some sort of a rinsing process. So you're right. If you were to go ahead and you were to soak the blackberries for a while, you would agitate them and remove many of the bugs, where you would demote them into out of the muhsik state, and you could also go ahead and thoroughly blend it. Blackberries. We recently checked goji berries. Goji berries are very infested with insects as well. So we used to be on our recommended list. We took it off recently because they're filled with bugs. Just to show you a few other things. Scallions.
So is it that anything can go into a blender as long as it's not
Very
in the category of being
Right.
very infested?
Right.
Doesn't the cooking process destroy the bug like the blender does?
Okay, so the cooking process will kill the bug for sure, but it's not enough to kill the bug. It has to be crushed up. Now, Shulchan Aruch talks about cooking. Shulchan Aruch says that cooking is a suffix if it's going to break up the bug. We treat it like a question. And that's why the halacha is, if you take something which is a meat hamatzli, and you cooked it, you forgot to check it, it wasn't checked, and you already cooked it, we consider it to be a spek sveikum. We allow you to eat the product because one suffix, maybe there's a bug, maybe there's no bug, and even if there was a bug, maybe it got chopped up in the cooking process. But something which is in the category of muhsik, there we said even if you cooked it, too bad, because it's only a suffix if it got crushed up, and it's not going to be a spek sveikum. So it does create a suffix, but it's not something which is for sure going to chop up the bug. Okay, scallions, people aren't aware of this. It's something called a leaf miner. I'll pass these scallions around. But basically on the scallion, sometimes you see there's like a line. There's a line where it's a squiggly line. Sometimes at the end of the line, you'll see that there's nothing there, which means a bug reached maturity and popped out. There's no bug in that one. But sometimes you'll see a little yellow discoloration at the end of it, which is a worm. You can't wash it off because it's actually burrowing its way in between the layers of leaf. That's why it's called a leaf miner. It's mining its way, it's burrowing its way in between the layers of leaf. If you see one of those, we tell you to just tear off the trail. Bugs, and sometimes there's really no bugs. So if you have a number of scallions, we tell you to check it. You take a knife. This is where the place where they're most common is this area over here. We call this the intersection. So what we want you to do is check a little bit, check a few of them, to make sure that it is clean, that there are no bugs. Now if you have a whole bunch, we tell our establishment they have a lot of scallions to check. So we tell them to check that area to make sure it's not infested. Assuming they're not infested, we tell you to get rid of what's called the intersection. That means the tube area really does not have so many bugs in it, so that we would allow you to use if it's not infested. This part, which is called the intersection, the place where the two tubes branch off, is the part where really most of the bugs hide out, in that area. That part we would have you just throw out. If your scallions, your green onions do have bugs in it, or let's say you're really not comfortable with yourself. You don't really feel comfortable checking for the bugs. So we have a way to do it where the bugs are going to just get rid of the bugs, is that you usually, the way you serve scallions is you dice it up, and you take the scallions, you put it into your tuna fish, you put it into your egg salad. So what you do is you dice up the scallions, put it into a bowl with a little soapy water or veggie wash, agitate it there for a half a minute or so, and then take those diced up scallions and put it into a strainer, your spaghetti strainer or something, and just spray out all the soap. When the soap comes out, so now the scallions are going to be chopped up. There's room for the bugs to exit. If I try to wash a scallion like this, so any bug that might be anywhere in here is trapped inside. But if after I dice the scallion up into small pieces and I put it into soapy water, agitate that water, put it into my strainer and just spray all the soap out, so the bugs will come out with it. So if you do happen to have bugs in your scallion or you're just not comfortable checking for it, that would be a safe way to do it, or to eliminate any potential bug. Any questions? Okay, there's a what? Cabbage? So red cabbage, green cabbage, purple cabbage. Cabbage does have less bugs than lettuces. So for cabbage, our policy is that we take away the outer leaves. Most of the bugs are in the outer, darker leaves. Those we take off and discard. The rest of the leaves, person just has to wash it. Just wash it off, rinse them out under water, and that would be sufficient. If you're making stuffed cabbage, for example, it might be a good idea to freeze it first, and it's easier to peel apart, and then just wash off each leaf. All the bugs will be eliminated in that way. If you happen to notice that there are bugs in your cabbage, sometimes you can see cabbage has, I like to call it, it looks almost like a leprosy, like just all bumpy, it looks funny. So very often we find that there are going to sometimes, there'll be bugs in that situation. So if you do find bugs in your cabbage, then just use the strip cloth method to get rid of those bugs.
So you have to wash every week?
So you either cut them, they should all get wet, they should all be rinsed.
Just plain water, no soap?
Just water.
What about cauliflower?
Cauliflower we take apart. Cauliflower is different than broccoli. In cauliflower, the florets are more dense, so the bugs don't really get into the florets. They're really more underneath, and we call them the tunnels underneath it. So we break the cauliflower into smaller florets, and we do the same thing with strip cloth method. Usually cauliflower is not so bad. Usually after one time of washing it, the bugs will be eliminated. The most common bug in cauliflower is going to be that thrip that we just saw over here. Usually they're going to be a little bit yellowish. The strips will come in different colors depending on what produce you're using, but that is the most, that's usually what you'll find. One or two, wash it a second time, and usually it's going to be clean.
What about asparagus?
So asparagus, our policy used to be that there are plenty of bugs in the top of the asparagus, these top parts. So it used to be just chop off the top. Then we discovered that really there are bugs that are underneath these triangles. Now, when you wash them, the bugs don't come out because the triangles are pressed against the asparagus and the bugs are stuck in there. So the only way to really eliminate them is to take off each triangle or peel the entire asparagus. And that's what our establishments all do. You will not find any triangles left on any of the asparagus. They shave it. Usually you want to get a thicker asparagus. If you're going to use very thin asparagus and you peel it, you're left with a toothpick. So you want to get thicker asparagus.
What about the frozen cauliflower and broccoli?
So we treat that the same as regular broccoli and cauliflower. Again, unless you're making a broccoli kugel, in that case, you're blending it up. But if you're using it, what? Bodik is fine, right? Bodik is going to be Bodik positive, forgotten. What? Right. Jules has checked and washed lettuce. Jules is under the OU, so I really can't, I don't think I price for that. But the method that they use is using the strip cloth. What? Oh, so okay, he takes the price for that.
Brussels sprouts.
What?
Brussels sprouts.
The Brussels sprouts are very infested. The only way we allow our establishments to use Brussels sprouts is if they actually peel off every leaf by leaf. That's the only way, and they do that. They'll do that. They'll pull off each leaf by leaf. I just checked the bag last week and found over 10 bugs in a small bag, 1 pound bag of Brussels sprouts. The Brussels sprouts have plenty of bugs in it. As far as dried fruit, so the what? Yes. After each one is separated, after each leaf is separated. Yes, I'll get pass this around. We do tell you.
What's the story with fresh dates?
So it's like this. Sometimes the figs and the dates will come infested. So we tell you to check. For sure, you should check a handful of them to make sure there are no bugs in them. Okay, so I'll show you here. Here's one date. Currently I'm checking Tunisian dates. Tunisian dates, at home we usually get medjool dates. Very rarely do I find any worms or bugs in medjool dates from Sam's Club. But I started checking in to Tunisian dates, and I've been finding some bugs. And the question is if we should continue our policy and tell people that it's enough to check a handful, or we should make people check each one. But I'll just show you, I'll pass it around. It's very hard to see, because the worm here, it looks almost exactly like the color of the date. Pass it around. But if you look very closely, you can see it's a... So we'll just move on. We'll go to...
How about the other dry fruits?
Other what?
Other dry fruits.
Other dry fruit. So the thing is... What? I don't have another date. I only have...
You said medjool dates and...
The medjool dates that I've checked, like I got from Sam's Club, like a better quality date, they're very...
So you don't have to check it?
So you don't, we tell you, we still, the policy is always just check a handful from a container, but, if you see that a certain brand never has, so what are you checking for? What are you?
What about onions?
So onions, there are bugs, these thrips appear in onions, and they're usually limited to the outer layer. So when it comes to an onion, as long as the onion is fresh and it's tightly packed, there's no way for the bug to get to the inside. So we tell you to peel it, most people do this anyway, peel off the first layer of leaf and discard it. That's what we tell you to do. If it's an older onion where the layers started to separate, or sometimes you get like a twin onion where there's a nice big gap, so then we tell you to just rinse out the layers, rinse out in between the layers, and the bugs will easily find their way out. Yeah, or in between the layers, if you see there's a separation between layers of onion, so just rinse that area, rinse that part of the onion.
You have to cut the onion. It's whole.
You could have it whole as long as you take off the top layer, and as long as it's fresh, where the layers are tightly packed. Dried figs could be somewhat pretty infested. Dried figs. We tell people that they have to check the inside of it. Now the truth is, you have to really know what you're looking for when you do so. But there are wasps, worms, other kinds of stuff. Fresh figs have less. There we tell you to check a handful of it to make sure it's not an infested batch. We'll just finish up with what? Yeah, so that's not, a lot of times it's the crystallization of sugars, things like that. It's not. You wanted to know, sometimes you see some brown dots inside of the date. What is that? They're saying sometimes it's just the crystallization of the sugars of the date that make different marks, but it's not going to be a bug. When it comes to leek, we do is we treat leek like celery. Celery has lots of bugs, but it comes right off. You wash it under water. You take the celery, you're going to wash it under water, especially if some people like to use a brush. You wash it off, all the bugs will roll right off. So leek, we do the same thing for. We'll take the leek.
You don't have to peel the celery, you can just brush it off.
Just brush it off, wash it off, right, wash it off well. Leek, we take each leaf, we separate them, and then we'll take each leaf individually and wash it under running water, rubbing your finger back and forth. I personally like to put it into soapy water first. It makes everything a little bit looser. The dirt and the bugs will come off easier. That's what we do. We treat each piece like a piece of celery and rub it up and down under running water, and all the bugs will just come out.
Can you leaf like scallion and chop it up and put it in the water?
You could do it like that. You could do it like that. Also, you could find sometimes leaf miner trails on leek as well. So you want to be on the lookout for that. If you see funny looking squiggly lines.
That's the regular fruits. Apples, oranges,
No, right, no, sorry.
grapes.
Grapes we wash well. We wash grapes well. They have bugs on grapes, but we wash them well and they will come off. Any other questions?
I want to thank unbelievable, very sort of much more to learn. We thank the CRC also, but we have an unbelievable community which is hand in hand, and we work together on many events.